Okay. Good morning, everybody. My name is Jennifer Burns. I am the Director of the Business Insight Center here at the Central Library. We offer free and confidential market research services and startup resources, and including, what does a business plan look like, sample business plans, all the way to much, more sophisticated market research, as well as patent and trademark and copyright information through the Carlson Center for Intellectual Property. I'm going to put the link into the chat if you would like to request a meeting with us. All of our meetings are one-on-one, and we can do that via Zoom, via phone, or in person. It doesn't matter. It's up to you. Again, thank you for joining us, and I'm going to turn it over to Christine with the Small Business Development Center. Christine?
Good morning, everybody. Thank you for joining us today. So my name is Christine Rogers. I am a business advisor with the SUNY Brockport Small Business Development Center, also known as the SBDC, which a lot of you probably have heard that being thrown around. Our center also provides free and confidential business counseling to startups, entrepreneurs, small business owners, and we do a lot of the similar things that the Central Library does as well. And we also do extensive projections too. That's one of our specialties here. But our free services are made possible by funding from the U.S. Small Business Administration, the SBA, the state of New York, and our host campus, SUNY Brockport. Our business advisors are same. They're in person, virtually, or by phone. Along with our advisement, we do offer a fast track to business ownership class. Our next class is taking place on September 16th, 17th, and 18th, and you can still register online at our www.sbdcbrockport.org. I'm sure one of my lovely advisors that are online now will put that in the chat for me. We do have a pitch competition along with this fast track program this time, so that's a new twist. And please make sure to follow us on Brockport SBDC on Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter, and Facebook, so you don't miss any of our events that we hold, like this one. So it is my pleasure to introduce Sean Atkinson. He is a seasoned brand and marketing strategist with over 30 years of experience. Starting his career in the music industry, Sean focused on branding and building artist personas, which ignited his passion for marketing and branding. Sean's hands-on experience across various advertising and marketing evolutions equips him with unique insights that he now applies to help small and minority-owned businesses navigate their unique challenges. Sean takes the lessons and business practices that he learned from big brands and translates them into strategies that smaller businesses can use, whether it's an entrepreneur just starting out or an existing business trying to grow and scale. Sean helps by identifying the challenges through assessments and customized strategies to achieve their definition of success. And today, Sean is going to speak to the 7 deadly sins of marketing, and we're going to let him take it from here. Thank you, Sean.
Well, thank you so much. I apologize for the lengthy introduction. I'm a bit of a lifer. I've been doing this for a very long time. So I leave a lot of things out, but I also have to leave enough things in for people to say, why should I listen to you, and provide an answer to it. Today, we're taking a look at the 7 deadly sins of marketing. And one of the reasons that this is so important is as a market researcher and a strategist, one of the things that I do is I do a lot of what I call social listening. And social listening is looking at what's taking place online, identifying trends, good trends and bad trends, and then making adjustments and sharing information to teach people how to be able to be more effective in their communication, not just with their audience, but in just talking about their brands and their passions, what got them into starting their business. One of the things that I typically explain to people is there are 3 to 5 different reasons that people normally start a business. One is that they had a great experience that they want other people to be able to have. Another is that they had an awful experience that they want to help other people avoid. And the third, more main one, I think we're seeing more of is people know the answer to something or have a solution, even if they don't have the firsthand experience. They know what the solution is, and then they're bringing that to market. So we're starting to see more of that, where we're seeing new experts, new coaches. Everybody's a guru right now. So if you're on Facebook, you probably see a lot of things in groups where someone will drop a quote or they'll give you a certain amount of information. I actually saw something yesterday where someone posted something that said, if you're a podcast, if you're looking to be a guest on a podcast and they have less than 25,000 followers, that's not an effective podcast for you. And it's an insulting thing to anyone with less than that, because they could bring value. And one of the things that we're going to talk about is being able to focus on your target audience. And one of the reasons focusing on your target audience is so important is you want to be able to understand who you're supposed to be talking to, because once you can understand that, then you can start to change your conversation. So one of the things that I like to be able to explain to people is there's so many things that you do in your personal life that can be translated over into your professional life. And it's not as much of a leap. Once you can start to make that connection, then it's something where it doesn't feel as overwhelming. There are so many people that are posting to social media now and they don't get any engagement, they don't get any likes, and they're just like, well, I know I have to do it, but I kind of dread doing it. But when you can change your conversation to the point where you know you're bringing value, and even if you just get a few people or one person that's able to say, you know what you shared with me, I was able to implement it and I was able to get these results. That's what you're really into it for, because that one person allows you to be able to identify if that's an ideal client, then that one person can lead to 5 people, which can lead to 10 people, and so on from there. So with that as a lead-in, this gives you a little more reason to listen into the actual presentation. And if you have any questions, definitely feel free to let me know. So the 7 deadly sins of marketing, what we're looking at is, one sec, let me go back. What we're looking at is, how do we adapt? Digital marketing is a great way to create awareness of your brand, promote the problem that you solve, and while locking in on who your target audience is and why. So with the 7 deadly sins, what you want to do is you want to avoid some of the common mistakes that we see people make, or you could be making, and I could be making, and we go through and start to make these edits and changes so that we stay up to date with the most recent trends. We're getting out information that's actually valuable, and it will allow us to start having better communication with our clients. The first one up is everyone equals no one. A common mistake is to try to appeal to everyone. In doing so, you leave yourself with no real target audience. There are a lot of people that will post something to social media, but they don't necessarily identify who they're talking to. One of the things that I love about New York is its character, because you can go just about any place. And I can't tell you how many times I've seen someone out on a corner where they were a little bit off and they were just talking to everyone and just talking, and everybody kind of looked around and said, well, who are they talking to? And if you don't know who they're talking to, then you don't know what you're supposed to be listening for. So one of the things that you're trying to narrow down is, what are you supposed to be conveying? So when you're talking to everyone, it definitely comes back to, you're basically talking to no one. Because if you don't say, this is the right person, this is the problem that I'm solving, these are the challenges that I know you may be facing, and here's the solution for it. That's what people are really looking for. Yes, if they're scrolling through Instagram or they're scrolling through different feeds, they're looking for something visually that's going to catch their eye. But realistically, once they stop, you have to be able to deliver value. And if you're talking to everyone, then they don't, it puts the onus on them to be able to say, well, this is for me. And our job is to be able to make sure that they know that it's for them. So the fear of niching down when it comes to your market is, well, if I only focus on one market, then I can end up missing out on others. But your credibility is one of the things that allows you to be able to reach those other audiences. Technically with business, nobody really wants to be the first or the early stage ones, unless you're Apple. And then there's the early adopters that love to be able to buy something because they know it's a credible company. So if anything goes wrong, they know they're going to take care of them. As small business owners, we don't necessarily get that luxury because when you make that sale, you're hoping to keep that sale. Now let's take a look at someone that got it right. Groovebook. This is a story. Groovebook is a subscription service that prints mail and photo books. Initially, they tried to appeal to the broad market. However, they soon realized that targeting tech-savvy families and busy parents who valued photo memories was more effective. The impact was by focusing on their niche, Groovebook saw a significant increase in subscription and engagement, and the company's ability to cater to a specific audience needs led to its acquisition by Shutterfly for 14.5 million, underscoring the importance of the power of target marketing. Now, I can't give you the upside without giving you another version of it because we don't want to just learn from what someone did right. You will find more examples of what someone did wrong, and you can make those corrections. And those are going to be things that you can do that are actionable. So let's take a look at someone that got it wrong. Quibbits. Quibbits is a construction toy company that tried to market their toys to all children without focusing on a specific demographic. Their broad marketing approach did not resonate with a specific group of customers. So again, if they don't know that you're trying to reach them, they'll say, well, maybe that's for somebody else, unless they think it's a natural fit. If they're not looking for it, they need you to explain why they should. So the impact here is without a clear target market, Quibbit struggled to gain traction in the market, resulting in lower sales and eventually leading to their downfall. This illustrates the importance of a focused marketing strategy. 2 would be hearing but not listening. A common mistake is to forget that your marketing messaging is meant for your audience, not for yourself. So there are a lot of people that will tell you their story and tell you so many different things about what their company does and why you should care, but it's more about them saying, I put a lot of work into this and I want to be able to see some results. I'm posting to social media because I want comments, I want engagement, I want likes. But the reality is what you're really trying to convey is, I know your struggle, I know your challenge, I know what you're working on or what you might not even know that you need to work on. Part of doing marketing research and brand building is identifying the problem, identifying the challenge, and then coming up with a solution, because that's really what your marketing is about. You're basically taking everything that you learned through market research and saying, here's everything that I learned listening, watching, talking to different people, and then taking that language and repeating it back to the audience and saying, did I get this right? So if you're hearing but not listening, my grandmother used to say, did you hear what I said? Yeah, I heard you, but were you listening? So people will tell you all the time what it is that they want, but if you're not actually listening and implementing it, it's not going to get you the results that you're hoping for. An example of someone that got it right is Simple Sugars. Simple Sugars, a skincare company founded by Lanny Lazari, made it a priority to listen to customer feedback. They adapted their product line based on customer needs and preferences. The impact? This approach led to increased customer satisfaction and loyalty, and Simple Sugars' success on Shark Tank and subsequent growth shows the benefit of truly listening to your audience. Now, you'll notice that all of the examples that I'll be sharing are Shark Tank examples because I wanted to share things that are researchable, easy for you to find more information on, and then also allow you to have someone that's a little more real world, as opposed to some of the examples where you hear about people that are making 7 figures and things like that, and some of us are trying to get to 6 figures and trying to work our way up to 7. So it's really important to be able to have examples that you can relate to. Here's an example of someone that got it wrong. Toy Guru. Toy Guru, a toy rental service, initially experienced growth but failed to listen to customer feedback regarding inventory management and customer service issues. The impact: ignoring these crucial aspects led to customer dissatisfaction, eventual business failure, and this case highlights the importance of addressing customer feedback effectively. 3, static marketing strategies. The common mistake is to create a set it and forget it marketing strategy, not taking trends and changes into consideration. One of the things that makes it easier to be able to do this now is there are so many different tools that allow you to be able to automate your post. So some people may set something and they can go months out and really just post something and forget what it is that they're posting. But it's important to be able to have something where that you're putting things out that are valuable. So you don't want to set something that's so static that you're missing out on trends and changes in the market and evolving situations. You could have something that you set up and forgot that you posted, and it doesn't align with where things are now, and it could be to your detriment. So let's say some people, when there was a shortage on products and services, when we had the issue with the Panama Canal, if you're saying, oh, well, you know what, we have fast shipping, that's going to be something that's going to stand out because someone's going to say, okay, well, great, you've got fast shipping. I've got a bunch of people telling me that everything's back ordered. So I'm going to go ahead and order from you. And when they order from you and you can't deliver on it, not only did you not deliver on what you were saying, but it almost feels more like false promotion. So now they have a reason to remember you in a negative sense instead of a positive sense. So one of the things that comes with content marketing and customer experiences, we always want to make sure that they leave satisfied. Even if it's just with a post, we want to be memorable in the right kind of ways. An example of someone that got it right would be Scrub Daddy. Scrub Daddy, a smiley face sponge, adapted his marketing strategy over time using social media and viral videos to stay relevant and engage customers. The impact? The dynamic marketing approach kept Scrub Daddy in the public eye and significantly boosted sales, proving the value of flexible marketing strategies. Someone that got it wrong would be Show No Towels. Their story is Show No Towels is a towel designed to make changing clothes easier. They did not evolve their marketing strategy after their initial Shark Tank appearance. And the impact was the lack of innovation in their marketing approach led to stagnant sales and the eventual failure of business. This case demonstrates the risks of sticking with a marketing strategy that may have worked before, but it's not necessarily working now. So you want to be able to track, well, I was doing great before, but somewhere in there, I started losing engagement. Somewhere in there, I started to see things start to fall off. These are things that you want to be able to pay attention to, because if you're not making those adjustments, if you're not paying attention to what's going on in the market, that's where you can start to fall behind. And I want to say there's at least 300,000 new businesses that are started every year. So for the times that you don't get it right, there's someone else waiting to get that moment, that voice that you have. When you get it wrong, the next person steps up. So we want to make sure that we're staying on top of the trends and that we're making adjustments as needed. And that's one of the things that you'll hear as far as an industry term is agile marketing. And it's the ability to stay agile. It's the ability to pivot and make shifts. You'll have your main campaigns that you run, but as someone that used to run a lot of paid advertising for really large companies, one of the things that I always do is I ran multiple campaigns. The main one where I know I have the main conversation that I want to have, and then individual campaigns where I'm learning and picking up on the trends and gathering feedback so that I know what's taking place so that I can start to make adjustments. And as I start to turn the dial on one thing and I see increase in engagement, I know that that's an audience that I want to keep more of an eye on. And if I see something tail off, then I know I want to pull away from that because it could be doing damage to my brand. 4, know, like, trust is a must. A common mistake is to overlook the customer journey. You have to earn the buyer's consideration before they convert into customers. Now, you'll hear a lot of different versions of what a customer journey is. There's know, like, trust. There's different versions, decision, consideration, and then buying. But essentially what it is you're identifying when someone realizes they have a problem, then they start to look for solutions. And then once they start looking for solutions, then they say, okay, well, I've narrowed it down to this group. Now I want to know who offers me the best results, who can deliver after I make the purchase. And this is something that I think people can overlook as well. When you're thinking about the customer journey, it doesn't stop once they make the purchase. The way that you get to retain customers and you get to build out your business is by getting people to buy from you more than once. It's so much easier to be able to get a customer that's purchased from you to buy again than it is to go through that full customer journey of introducing yourself to a new client or a new prospect. It's starting the process all over again. It's going back to answering frequently asked questions and things that don't necessarily align with your ability to shorten the sales process. So know, like, trust is a must, because everything that we're doing when it comes to the customer journey is trying to identify the perfect time to be able to have a conversation with someone so that we can shorten the sales cycle. As a small business owner, the shorter your sales cycle, the more you are able to forecast your sales, the more you're able to address slow points in business. For a lot of businesses, summertime may be a slow time for them. But if you're someone that's doing events and things that are outside, that could be the time where things start to pick up, as opposed to winter, where people may just want to get where they're going and not be outside. So knowing who your audience is, knowing when to approach them, and knowing how to be able to have the conversation all falls under the realm of content marketing. You want to be able to have these conversations in a way that's meaningful. It's engagement that they can remember and give them reason to want to be able to learn more. An example of someone that got it right is Tipsy Elves. Tipsy Elves, a holiday-themed apparel company, created a fun and relatable brand image that resonated with customers. The impact? Their marketing efforts built strong brand recognition and trust, leading to substantial sales growth and success beyond the holiday seasons. Someone that got it wrong is Breatho Media. Breatho Media initially marketed their product as a breathalyzer, but faced issues with product reliability and regulatory compliance. The impact, the inability to establish trust and address these critical issues, led to their downfall. This case highlights the importance of building and maintaining trust with your audience, but it also adds to the importance of understanding the industry that you're entering. One of the things that I like to highlight to people is to understand not just the business idea that you have, but the industry that you're entering into, because you want to know about regulatory compliance, the expectations of the industry, as well as the audience. You can focus on the audience, but if you're not keeping up with what the industry's expectations are, this is something that can cause you a lot of problems, because they will say that you're not up to standard. And then you're having a battle of not only winning over customers, but you're having a battle of trying to prove your value and your credibility in an industry. 5, this is one that I see a lot, and this is all the tricks in the book. A common mistake is to jump to a different strategy if you don't see instant results without taking the time to find out why it didn't work. Now, one of the things that I notice, again, Facebook, Alignable, a lot of different places where people are posting things. Threads now is another example. I see them jump to different things. They'll get a guru that pops up, and I can tell when someone drops a new video saying, here's how you can make 7 figures, because I see a change in all the messaging for a whole bunch of people. And one of the things that I try to explain to people about trying to use all the tricks in the book is, a lot of the times what happens is you have to think of it almost as a pyramid. By the time you get some of these ideas of people saying, this is how I made 7 figures, there are other people that have already implemented that strategy, and they're further ahead in that process. So it's not that it's something that you can't use, it's that you have to be able to understand the impact that it could have, what that customer journey may look like, and what that business journey may look like for you to build up enough credibility. If it's a trend, like, for example, younger generation, there's TikTok, where they have different things that are going viral. If you're at the tail end of something and you pop up after a dance has already been done for months, and you're popping up and you're doing posts, it doesn't stand out well. It's like, okay, we've been doing that for a while. Why are you just coming around to this? So it can have a negative effect as opposed to a positive effect when you're looking at things that are trending. If you look like you're jumping around to different things, you may have found an audience that said, you know what, this is interesting. I'm going to come back and look at this later. But if you change what your conversation is, or you change your approach, you're not showing consistency. And consistency is going to be important when you're working on that customer relationship. So it's starting a conversation and then jumping around to different topics. It's almost like trying to tell a story. And instead of you sticking to the main framework of that story, you jump around, and it just makes it harder for people to keep track. And it requires more effort on their part. And what we're trying to do is we're trying to remove the things that require effort and make it more of a no-brainer and simple solution or a simple decision, which helps shorten the sales process and puts you in a light where it makes more sense to people to be able to make those kind of choices. An example of someone that got it right is Bubba Q's boneless ribs. Bubba Q's boneless ribs, say that 5 times really fast, created by former NFL Al Bubba Baker, focused on consistent marketing strategies that emphasize the unique selling points of their product. The impact? By sticking with a clear and focused strategy, Bubba Q's built a strong brand and experienced significant growth, leading to the success and business expansion. Someone that got it wrong, Sweet Balls. Pause. Story. Cake Ball Company initially saw success, but quickly ran into legal and operational issues due to internal conflicts and lack of strategic focus. The impact? The inability to maintain a consistent strategy and internal disputes led to the company's downfall. This case underscores the importance of strategic alignment and focus. So it's not just what's going on externally, it's also trying to make sure that everyone's on the same page internally. As you work with larger companies, if you're in the B2B space, you will realize that you may have a point of contact, but your point of contact may have one goal, one agenda. But when you have other people in the company, you also want to know who the decision makers are, because there's one decision maker, but then there's also other people that can drive that person's decisions, because they know they have to rely on that person for different aspects of the business. So it's important to know who all the players are, so that you can make sure that you're not just meeting one person's expectations, but if there are other people that you have to be able to appease and impress, that you know who those players are. So it's important to not only know from a content marketing standpoint, but you also want to gather that information so that you can tell who you need to be having conversations with, and to take it back to things that you do in your personal life and how you can strategically move that over. There are some people where you may meet them, and when you have a conversation with them, you have a conversation based on how they talk. So if you're talking to someone and you notice that they perk up when you say certain things, you naturally unconsciously are going to stick with that tone of voice. You're going to stick in that lane and make sure that you're sharing information that is relevant there. But the moment that you bring somebody else in the room, talking to that person that one little way, it's almost like having a child and you start talking in a baby voice. Oh, aren't you so cute? And then you get an adult in the room and they're like, why are you talking like that? So you have to consider who's in a room, and you have to make sure that you're adapting. So this is an example of not just the content marketing and making sure that you have it right and understand the industry. So they ran into legal and operational issues. They didn't understand their industry. And then they also didn't make sure that everyone's on the same page internally. Now I can stop here and see if there's any questions, or I can continue.
Yeah, we have a couple questions.
Mm.
And if you are going to address this later in the presentation, just say so. First question is, once you determine who your target audience is, what are the best ways to reach them?
Great question. One of the first things that I say is, when you identify who your target audience is, you want to identify where you found them, because where you found them is also going to dictate how you interact with them. So, for example, Instagram is great for products. TikTok is great for products. If you know that you're on something where it's more visual, one of the ways that you're going to interact with them is you're going to give them visual content. If you're doing something where your audience is more on LinkedIn, then you're providing more text, maybe video. There's going to be things that you have to think about, the constructs of the actual platform, the framework that they're operating within. It's not just about finding the audience, it's also understanding how that platform allows you to be able to communicate with them best. So, for example, if you're on most of these platforms, the thing to remember is these are user-generated content platforms. You'd never really hear them mentioned that way. They're UGCs, and user-generated content means they don't exist if you don't post on them. So as much as they make you feel like you need them, the reality is they need you. And this is one of the reasons why I focus on small businesses, because I don't think they necessarily get to see the value that they bring to the market. We know there's a recession because small business owners see it first. And when we stop generating and adding to the economy, then that's when it starts to affect everyone else. So one of the things to go back to is when you're thinking about your target audience, you want to find where they are. You want to start to look and listen to how they're communicating with people, and start to look for the people in the group that may be driving conversations, because those are going to be people that you want to have more interaction with, as opposed to someone that may randomly post something. It's good to look at what some other competitors are doing, because that will give you an idea of what they're doing right. And then going back to what we said before, looking at what they may be doing wrong. And if I didn't answer that properly, let me know and I'll circle back to that again.
And the other question is, how long do you suggest waiting to see if your current strategy is working?
Mm-hmm.
If it's working well, should you move forward to an additional market strategy to keep fresh?
Absolutely. I would say from someone that's done paid advertising, which is something where it's harder to be able to sit still. That's something where if it's paid advertising, you want to do it sooner than later. But if we're talking about free advertising, just posting regular, I would give it a quarter, so up to 3 months, because it's not the first time that someone sees a post that they instantly start jumping on, reaching out or anything like that. It takes them seeing it a few different times. So it could be 5 to 10 times before they actually say, let me actually click on this link. The first time it catches their eye. The second time it starts to trigger the familiarity of it to say, I've seen this before. The next time it may be, let me actually stop and see what they're saying. I really don't have time to read this right now. I just thought this was going to be something quick that I could check out. The fourth time it may be, okay, I said I was going to come back to this and I didn't get to do it. You could get distracted. So it's not necessarily the first time, and that's why you want to give it more time. When you have non-paid advertising, you have that time to be able to do that. One of the things that I will go back to is, this is why I said I run multiple campaigns, because one, there's the brand message that, you know, this is my value proposition. This is what I want to be able to convey to people. And then there's the ones where you can do something where you're targeting a very specific audience, and you can be more experimental with that. If you give it a month or two and you're not seeing any kind of traction, then you can start to evaluate. If you've got analytics and things set up and you're sending people to specific landing pages, that's going to be something else that's going to allow you to be able to see when you're seeing spikes. So if you're posting to social media and you are running a very specific campaign and you log into any of the ones that share analytics with you, you're checking for the spikes. When I released this article, or when I did this post targeting this specific audience over the span of a month or two, when did I see that kind of a spike? I give it 3 months because I'm running multiple campaigns. So again, I know that if I'm running more than one campaign, they may go there and see one conversation, and then it lengthens the time where I need to get to that fourth or fifth time that they're seeing something and continuing that conversation. So it depends on paid advertising versus just regular posts. Paid advertising, you can't necessarily afford to wait it out. So I would give it, as a small business owner, a month. And that's almost stretching it because you want to start to have an idea. But my recommendation is, don't do paid advertising to try to figure things out. That's what free marketing is for. By the time you do paid advertising, you should know who your audience is. You should know where you're trying to find them. You should have as much information on them as possible, because when you're setting up your campaigns, they're asking you these questions. And one of the ways that you can tell if you aren't ready is if you go in and you start trying to set that campaign up and you find yourself stumbling over answering those questions. If you're not answering those with a certain level of confidence, it may not be time for you to do the paid advertising. I can't tell you how many times I'll speak to someone and they'll say, oh, well, I'm ready to jump into paid advertising. And I know we just finished having a conversation where you couldn't tell me specifically who your ideal customer is. And there's more than one. So it's, if you can't tell me at least one, and you know that you have different types of audiences that you're trying to reach, why would you pay for the experience of trying to figure out who that is? Hopefully that helps.
Yep,
Any
thanks
other
so much.
questions, or you do want me to continue?
You can continue. Thanks.
Okay. Six, selling a product instead of the solution. A common mistake is to waste a limited window of opportunity to start with the problem you're solving, and then earn the audience's attention. And this goes back to the conversation I was having, where some people are so proud of what it is that they put together that they forget that they're not their own customer. You're actually trying to impress the audience. And if you're sitting there talking about the product instead of the solution that you're solving, you're telling them about the work that you put into it. And that's normally not interesting to people until they realize that you're solving an actual issue or challenge, unless your story is so profound that it just makes someone want to be able to connect with you. And it's not that these things don't happen. It's that your marketing has to be so strong that it makes people stop to say, well, who is this person? And uh, a lot of times what happens with that is you're building a brand based on a moment, and what happens when that moment passes. So you don't want to necessarily sell the product or the service that you're selling. You want to focus on the solution, because in life in general, people want to know what's in it for them. So when you show that you care about and you understand their struggle, their challenge, then they're more willing to listen. It's like someone that gives advice versus someone that gives recommendations. Someone that gives advice may be giving unsolicited advice. It may be something where they heard something and said, oh, well, this is what I think you should do. A recommendation means that you listen to what someone said. You didn't just hear, but you listened, and you said, okay, based on what you said, this is what I heard, and this is the recommendation I would make with that. Completely different type of experience. So you're not necessarily trying to sell the product, you're selling the solution. You're saying, are you struggling with this? We've all seen the commercials, from ambulance chasers and all these different things, the cheesy commercials that we may see on infomercials at 2 and 3 o'clock in the morning if you're a night owl like me. Uh, these things are staples for a reason. These are frameworks for a reason. There are people that start their framework with saying, are you this? They're identifying you. They're making you raise your hand and say yes. And then the next thing they follow up with is the challenge or the struggle. Are you this person? Okay, well, if you raise your hand, then let me talk directly to you. Are you someone that ran into this problem? If you ran into this problem, let me show you how I understand what that problem or that challenge is. And then now I can actually start to tell you about the solution. The solution, we have a solution for this. We're able to do this, we're able to do that. And then you can get to the product, because then you talk about the what they're experiencing, the when they might be experiencing it, the how it may feel. And then you can get to, here's how we can actually solve the problem. So if you're a small business and you do consultations, what you're generally talking about is what the problem is and why it's a challenge, why it's a struggle, why it matters to that person, why they're prioritizing it. And then what you're looking at is, the next step is, now how do we solve that problem? I want to say it's 95% of business of sales are based on emotional purchases. The buying decision, they have to feel that connection. They have to feel like you actually understand what it is that they're feeling. Now, granted, this is how we end up leading into people having buyer's remorse, because some people know how to package it really, really well to get you to buy the first time. But then after you buy it, then you realize, okay, well, I was so caught up in the moment of what you were selling me on, I didn't take the time to make sure that you were able to deliver the solution. So the reason that I say don't sell a product, sell a solution, is if you let them know what happens after the purchase, then that builds up their confidence in making that purchase.
We've got a great question from
Hmm.
Ray. How do you suggest selling services which are invisible, especially when the prospect is focusing on price? It seems no matter what I say, tell them what I tell them or say, I've tried storytelling without much success either.
Great question. Uh, I would say stop telling your story and allow the customers to tell their story. Because if you're trying to tell it in your way, what you really are trying to figure out is, again, going back to the challenge, the struggle, and the solution. If your voice isn't necessarily resonating, then I would lean further into the testimonials, the customer success stories, case studies. They probably want to hear more from someone that has the experience and can say how they benefited from it than to hear you talk about how well you'll be able to deliver a product. So one of the things that I look at is with reputation building is it removes you out of the process, and it implements the actual audience, the customers. It allows them to be someone that you show that you not only value, but it turns them into brand champions. I would much rather, and I can't remember the statistic right off the top of my head, but it's significantly high that people would prefer to hear from the customer because they can say, this is what I was struggling with. This was the research that I did. This was the process that I went through. Once I invested, this was what the experience was like. And this is everything that happened after the process, after the investment, after I made that purchase. So the frequently asked questions that you may be able to answer are normally going to be things that happen before the purchase. And there are a lot of people that focus on that part. But when you add in the audience is more likely going to tell you about the things that happen after. They're going to answer the questions that you might not know to ask because those customers are going to be able to do that. And I just saw it pop up in the chat. What if you're starting out and you don't have customers yet? There is something that we call an MVP, minimum viable product. And it's another way of saying you do a soft launch before you officially roll out your business. And this is another thing that I think people should focus more on doing is testing and things out in the market before they fully launch their business. Because you can have a business idea and a business model and think that your audience is one audience. But once you do a soft launch, you may find that there's a different use case. You may have something that worked really, really well, and it worked too well. I'll give you an example. There was a car battery that had a switch on it. So while one side was running, the other side was charging. That's a one-time purchase. So they did so well with creating a product that they could sell that they had to take it off the market because people were only buying it once. So they took it off the market so that people can start, so they could get back to having their regular sales. So it's something where if you start with a soft launch, that's something that you can kind of figure out who wants it. Yes. You can figure out why they want it. Yes. And you can figure out how best to be able to have that conversation with them. So there's so many different things that you want to be able to figure out going into it, because one of the things that I try to convey to people is that the failure rate of small businesses doesn't go down over time, it goes up. Because you might have rushed to market, you got some customers, you really felt like, all right, well, I have something. But if you don't test it, then you could have something that's like a flash in the pan, where you get some sales, but as you get further into the process, you realize there's things that you miss. There's steps that you miss. There's an audience that you thought was going to be the audience that was going to buy from you. And then you realize that's not really the audience at all. And then you have to try to pivot and scramble to try to get all of these things set. It's harder to do once your business is already out there, because then you're changing your messaging and then you start to look wishy-washy. You start to look like, well, if you don't have it figured out, how can I trust that you're going to have it figured out for me? So much of sales is based on confidence, and the minimum viable product or minimum viable service doing that soft launch is something that allows you to build up that confidence to know this isn't just a good business idea. This is a good business. It's not just a good business plan or a good business model. This is a good business. I know that not only is this something that I can sell once, 5 times, 10 times. Once you get that first one, once you get to 5, once you get to 10, once you get to 20, then you have the customers to be able to say, listen, I'm going to give this to you on a discount. And I'll go back to that specific question. If you don't have customers, you can do a soft launch. You can do something where you discount it and you give them like beta testers. You allow them to be able to get access to it at a discounted rate, and you do it with the contingency of, I'm going to need to gather your feedback. So if it's great, then you use those as testimonials. If it's something where you find issues, then you work through those issues before you do your official launch, and that keeps you from scrambling later. Hopefully that helps answer your question. And if you have any more, definitely let me know. So we've covered selling a product instead of solution as a problem. Here's someone that got it right. Cousin Maine Lobster. Cousin Maine Lobster, a food truck business specializing in Maine lobster dishes, focused on the experience and the quality they offered rather than just the product. The impact: by emphasizing the solution, bringing fresh Maine lobster to customers nationwide, they created a compelling story that drove success and expansion. Someone that got it wrong: Copa di Vino. Copa di Vino, a wine by the glass product, focused heavily on the product itself, but failed to effectively communicate the convenience and unique value proposition to consumers. The impact: the inability to sell the solution rather than just the product led to the missed opportunities and limited market penetration. This case highlights the importance of communicating the problem-solving aspect of a product. So we've covered this, but this is just an example and one to be able to look into to see, again, it's sometimes people focus so much on what someone got right, but I find that there's a wealth of information in identifying what people got wrong, because those are the things that you can really learn from. I find that one of the things that I tell people is we all serve as examples in life. Sometimes it's of what to do, sometimes it's of what not to do. And I think it's much easier to be able to learn from someone else's mistakes. If it's avoidable and you can avoid it, then definitely do that, rather than to learn from your own mistakes. Your own mistakes will sit with you longer. You might beat yourself up. I am an overthinker, so I am someone that will not let go of the mistakes that I make until I figure out a solution. If you're anything like that, then you want to be able to avoid putting yourself in positions where it's going to distract you from the things that you really should be focusing on. And 7, evolve or become obsolete. A common mistake is to go with, that's the way I've always done it, a marketing strategy, instead of evaluating your audience and market. Now, this one is going to be more relevant to businesses that have been around for a while. There are people that are selling things in a way where, well, I've been doing this for years, and because I've been doing it for years, I know how to talk to my customers. I am not the same person that I was a month ago, a year ago, 2 years ago. I am not even the same person that I was yesterday. I learned something yesterday and it changed who I am today and how I approach things. So if you're not taking a look at how things are evolving in your industry, how things are evolving with your audience, then you're putting yourself at risk. And the whole purpose of not only running a business, but as a business owner, and this is going to be a significant thing, you can be someone that knows how to run a business. That means you know how to be a worker within your own business. But to be a business owner, you have to be able to look at things that are going to say, well, this puts this company at risk. How do I avoid the risk? So we're trying to find ways to mitigate risk. And one of the ways that you do that is by checking in with the audience. So we've talked about customer feedback. One of the things that we're looking at is not only talking to them and asking them, well, this is the way that we've always been doing things. Are you still comfortable with this? Or have your expectations changed? The industry evolves. Now we have AI. So there are so many people that were copywriters that said, oh, this is going to ruin things for everyone. Not necessarily. What it's doing is it's changing job titles. What it's doing is it's raising the floor, and it's allowing more people to be able to feel comfortable entering into markets. And it's saying, if you're qualified with things, it's going to shorten your sales process. So where copywriting might have taken longer, now technically you're able to turn that around faster. Now you might say, okay, well, instead of me just doing the work, instead of turning some people away, now some of the people that I might turn away, I can actually create a product that says, here's how you can start working on your starter, your introduction content. And here's prompts. Here's different things that you can enter in based on the conversation, based on what it is that you're trying to cover. So evolve or become obsolete. AI is something that is coming for a lot of different industries and markets. It started with copywriters. It's starting to make its way into other businesses. One of the things that concerns me is how many people rallied around changing their job titles and their approach to strictly being AI. And this hasn't been regulated yet. There's so many different things about this that's getting ready to have constrictions put on it. If we're having privacy issues and we're having copyright concerns, it's only going to take one good lawsuit for someone to be able to say, I need to make sure that I know what's going in and what's coming out. When I'm sharing information on ChatGPT or something like that, I want to make sure that I know where that information is going. You don't want to necessarily put in proprietary information because then you're technically sharing it with the world if you don't make it something that is private. Got it right, Kodiak Cakes. Kodiak Cakes is a brand of pancake and waffle mixes, evolved their product line to include protein-packed options, catering to health-conscious consumers. The impact: by staying attuned to market trends and consumer preferences, Kodiak Cakes remained relevant and grew into a household name. So where they started out doing one thing, they realized that there was an audience that they didn't necessarily consider, and then tweak their products to be able to include them. And by doing so, it helped them grow and evolve. Someone that got it wrong: Hycon. Hycon, a company that created Quick Connect hoses, failed to secure a deal with Home Depot after Shark Tank appearance and did not evolve their business strategy to find an alternative distribution channel. The lack of strategic evolution and dependence on a single potential deal led to their struggle. This case underscores the importance of continually adapting and exploring new opportunities. The final thoughts, because I know we're coming up on time. There are certain takeaways that I want you to be able to have. If you don't take anything else away from this, I want you to concentrate on the 3 pillars. And the 3 pillars are identifying a problem, creating a solution, and delivering consistently with great results. When you identify the problem, you're not looking specifically at your problem. You're looking at what the audience is facing, what they're dealing with. The audience is always going to tell you what they want, how they want it served up to them, and everything that you need to know. So social listening is going to be something that's really important because they set the standard. As much as there are other industries where you can say, well, we start trends. I've worked in fashion to know that I've been in rooms where they said we're going to do collaborations and things like that, and it led to trends that ended up coming out 2-3 years later. And it's amusing to me because I've been in a room to know where people are starting these things, but it also came from understanding what the challenges are that people have. So all of these things tie into listening to your target audience. They'll guide you on what's needed and when, and then listen and follow their lead. It will answer everything that you need to know about where you can best fit and compete in your prospective market. And then the benefits of getting it right. Oh, there's a little black text up in there. Increase customer loyalty. Businesses that understand and address their customers' needs build stronger relationships and brand loyalty. It increases higher sales growth. Tailored marketing strategies that resonate with specific audiences can drive higher sales and business growth. There's the competitive advantage. Companies that adapt and evolve stay ahead of their competitors by meeting the challenges, the changing demands of the market. Ongoing strategies to think about: stay customer focused, continuously listen to your audience and adapt your strategies based on their feedback and needs. Be flexible, be willing to pivot and adjust your marketing strategies to stay relevant and effective. When you get input from your audience, one of the things that you want to look at is what can you act on now that will give you the quick wins, and what can you start to look at over time? Because not every idea is going to be a good idea in the moment. This again goes from being from running a business, because someone can give you feedback and say, well, here's all the things that you should do, to being a business owner and knowing which ones you should prioritize. Monitor trends, keep an eye on the market trends and consumer behavior to anticipate changes and opportunities. And then by avoiding the 7 deadly sins of marketing and learning from both successes and failures, you can create a more effective marketing strategy, achieve better results, and build stronger and more loyal customer base. And that's it. So I would love to be able to answer any additional questions that you have with the time that we have left, and I'm happy to stay on a little bit longer if anyone else has any additional questions. What's a good resource for modeling and building a marketing strategy for a new business? Great question, Mia. I would say it's going to be more industry specific, when you're talking about a good resource for modeling and building a marketing strategy, because you're having different types of conversations. But traditionally, what I would say is when you're looking at a resource, your resource is going to be the audience. They're going to tell you what you should be building, how much they're willing to pay. One of the things that I tell people to consider is not just what kind of challenges and struggles people have, but how much do they prioritize it in their life? Because you can find something that what I would say is there's wants, needs, must-haves, and guilty pleasures. There are a lot of people that are building things that are guilty pleasures. And how do you promote something and have people talk about something that's a guilty pleasure? They're only sharing it with the people that they feel comfortable sharing it with, and you don't really get brand champions from that. If it's a want, you may want it, but there are other things that could take precedence. If it's a need, then you know they're prioritizing that need. If it's a nice to have, then you're going to have a longer sales process. So you're not just looking at the audience, but you want to consider how long the sales process is for that business model that you're putting together. Any other questions?
Sean, just to clarify, is your
Mhm.
email sean@majority.media.com?
No. Funny enough, I realized instead of .com, I saw .media and I was like, oh, this is just sent from the heavens. So it allows me to be able to have my business name in my email without making people type extra things. So it
Oh, so
is
just
literally instead of .com,
majority.media.
it's .media. Yeah. So Sean
Okay.
at majority.media. One of the things that I would say is I have a Facebook and LinkedIn community where I answer a lot of these questions and share information because I can't take this information with me. And if I don't get it out of my head, then it just rattles around in there and it blocks me from thinking about all the other things that I could be doing. So happy to be able to answer questions and fill in some of the blanks. I think one of the toughest things is not knowing what you don't know. So if I can highlight some of the things that you should keep an eye on, then it will allow you to start getting the creative juices going to figure out how to customize it to your business. Okay. Is there
Question from
anything in the chat
Dahlia.
that I might have missed?
Yeah,
I
so
see.
Dahlia asks, I have a lot of interests, marketing such as jewelry, yoga, and garden design. Is it best to set up a few Instagram accounts for someone that likes to offer variety of seasonal services? How many is the most you recommend to focus on to avoid overwhelming?
Uh, that is a really good question. Excuse me, great question, because there is a lot of ways to be able to answer that. I will tell you the downsides first and then the upsides after. The downsides of creating multiple accounts is the level of time it will take for you to be able to maintain those accounts. Unless it's something that you're outsourcing or automating, that's a lot to keep track of. That said, I did say to niche down. So what I would say initially is if you don't have a lock on who your audience is, and this is something where you're talking about what your interests are, I would start with talking about what my interests are and why. And then as I start to build up the audience, then start looking at segmenting it. So you can prioritize which ones are gaining the most traction, and that's where you start to put your focus. So when I work with small business owners, I work on milestones and quick wins so that we can see the progress that we're making. Because if you don't see progress, then you start to feel defeated and you just start to feel like you're going through the motions. And what is it, Sisyphus, the guy that keeps pushing the rock up the hill and it falls and it goes back down again? Uh, that is business. Every time you hit a new level, you start over again with the challenges. But the upside is by filling in these blanks, you're not literally starting from scratch. So your floor elevates every single time you start to build in these different foundational elements. So start with gaining interest and understanding who the audience is. I would say a newsletter, something where you can start gathering information, you can get more feedback might be something that would help you. But if you start with your interest as far as jewelry, yoga, garden design, you will start to find who is connecting with you, who's engaging, who is finding the information that you're sharing valuable, and that will allow you to prioritize which ones to lean into first. That would probably be the path of least resistance.
Okay, any last questions for Sean? Going once, going twice. Please join us in October for our October program. I'm not sure if we have a topic for that yet, but yes, Gina.
It's the function of color in branding. So I have a person that owns a business, and it's a topic that people don't think about, but there are certain colors that are relatable to particular industries. So I've asked a business owner, she has Rock Pixel, the name is escaping me right now, but Sarah's gonna come on, and I've asked her to talk very specifically about how color functions in your branding process. And, you know, so if you think of massage therapy, you might see lavenders and purples and soft greens. If you see government, you might see red, white, and blue. If you see, you know, something related to welding, it might be gray and black. So color plays a function in the way people relate to your business, your brand, and it gives a visual impression of either comfort or, you know, attraction of some type. So I thought it was worthwhile to bring this topic up. So I found someone who can deliver this program. And so next time, October 2nd, will be the function of color.
This is a real thing, by the way.
Oh, yeah.
There's research that speaks to the colors that you choose definitely help convey messages subconsciously and consciously. So this is going to be a great one that comes up. I've tracked this for years. There's slides out there that talks about why McDonald's chose the colors that they chose and specific brands choose the ones that they do. It naturally conveys things without you having to say a word. And when you pair that with your actual marketing, then it's doubling down on the experience.
Thank you for that endorsement.
Thank you. All right, that's all the time we have today. Thank you again to the Small Business Development Center. And thank you so much to Sean, and we hope to see you in October. Have a great day, everybody.